another late night of partying, we decided to call it a night around 2:30 or so. My day started at 5 a.m. with work, and it's a miracle that I'm still up and driving my girlfriend and I home. She's such a party animal. Doesn't matter what day of the week it is, if there's a party, she's there. Well, I should say that we're there, since I'm the one that drives. This party lifestyle can be draining and stressful. Most of the time, we end up fighting because I can't keep up. She usually makes a scene, and we travel home in silence. Usually, anyways. As other times, the scene continues on the way home, and I'm reminded of how many times a person can use the word fuck in one sentence. Tonight was like all the others. I said, "Let's go." She said, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Blah, blah, blah. Another silent drive home. This time she was pissed, though. I mean, really pissed off. She just sat there glaring at me like she wanted to kill me, which is something she would have said normally anyways, so it didn't really bother me too much. As we made our way towards Fairview, I noticed that the streets were pretty dead for a Friday night. Usually there are house parties on nearly every neighborhood street we drive through, but not tonight. The air was pretty cold outside, so there weren't even kids drinking outside of their houses like usual either. Did I miss something? Is there something going on somewhere that I didn't know about? Whatever. I'm tired and she wants to kill me. I'd say our night is done. "You're going to miss Fairview again," she mumbled, with that murderous look in her eyes and a tone to match. "Oh, right," I mumbled back. I turned right onto Fairview, another desolate street, barely lit by those god-awful orange street lamps. There was a fog rolling in, a real thick one. Great, I thought to myself. All I wanted to do was get out of this car and into bed, but now I have to drive a little slower. "You're really going to drive this fucking slow?" she barked. Do you want me to crash or go over the bridge into the riverbed?" I shot back. She just glared and turned away. As we got closer to the riverbed, the fog was kind of patchy. I would get brief seconds of clear view, and then the fog would roll back in, blocking most things out. "Stop the car," she blurted out. "What?" I asked. "Stop the fucking car." This time minus the "I want to kill you" tone. "What the fuck is that?" She could barely get out. I'll admit, the look of fear on her face was actually starting to scare me, and I myself did not want to turn to see what it was she was fixed on, but I did. I broke my gaze and turned to look out the front windshield, and there it was. It was a woman. She was crossing in front of us in slow motion, it seemed. The car's headlights illuminated her body against the fog behind her, as we were in the middle of one of those clear patches. She was naked. She was an old and rather large woman, with a hanging stomach and sagging breasts to match. It looked like she was balding, or at least her black hair was thinning out so much that it looked like you could pull it all off with one tug. Her skin, God, her skin was this putrid whitish gray. The color you see on a corpse on TV, not someone living. Her proportions also seemed off, almost like she suffered some sort of deformity, and even her neck looked incredibly thick and almost too wide for her frame. As she was crossing in front of our car, and now directly in front of us, I realized that her legs weren't moving. It was almost like she was gliding across, or even floating. Even at the time, I thought that was peculiar, despite all of the other obviously strange characteristics. My girlfriend and I were speechless as this woman continued to pass in front of us. As she continued on, I saw that she was wearing a white shawl of sorts that was just as unsightly as she was. As my eyes focused in on it, I realized that I was following it as it was floating behind her, like she was walking against a strong breeze, only there was no breeze outside, just the fog and cold air. As she began to pass the car, that's when she saw that she wasn't walking. She had legs, but they weren't moving. From what we could see in the car, it looked like her legs faded into shadow from the shin down, as we couldn't make out her feet. What we could clearly see was that her legs were not moving at all, and she was indeed floating by. The fog rolled back in, and she was completely engulfed in the dense blanket of gray. I put my foot back on the gas, and we slowly drove across the riverbed, not once looking at one another or saying a word about what we had just seen. When we got home just past 3 a.m., we went straight to bed and didn't even talk about the naked woman. In fact, we didn't talk about it for a few days. When we did, we couldn't make sense of it and never brought it up again. It all started randomly one night. I remember waking up in the middle of the night. Might have been 2 in the morning, might have been 3. I'm not sure, but it all started with a faint barking in the distance. I sat up in bed listening to some dogs barking echoing through the neighborhood. Maybe it was even further than I thought. It could be echoing off the riverbed for all I know. God knows you hear some weird shit echoing off of the concrete in the middle of the night. This happened a few more times over the course of a month or so, before it stopped. I remember when I noticed it had stopped, I asked my mom if she had heard the dog barking in the middle of the night, and she looked at me like I was hearing things. I haven't heard anything at all. You stay up too late, she said with a mother knows best tone. Yeah, you're probably right, I replied. After a few weeks without barking, I was able to get decent sleep. I've always had a hard time staying asleep throughout the night. It's not insomnia. I mean, I've never had that much of a problem, but just enough to where some weeks are rougher than others. I've tried using sleeping pills, but those just made me sleep too much, so I never grew to like them. Then one night, I woke up as usual, 1 a.m. this time. I remember because I checked my phone. I was going through some text messages when I heard something in the hallway. We have hardwood flooring, so it's nearly impossible to walk through the house without the floors creaking to some extent, but the floor wasn't creaking. It was more like something solid hitting the floor, not someone's socks or bare feet. Oh, it must be Toby, my sister's spoiled house cat. Not sure why he's walking so slowly and loudly in the hallway, though, I thought to myself as I turned over and went back to sleep. A few nights later, I woke up to it again. Still the same steady pace up and down the hallway. Go away, Toby, I snarled half asleep. It stopped. Finally, I said to myself. As I rolled over with my back towards the door, the footsteps started again, but this time they were moving faster, towards me. They stopped right at my door. Fuck, that's not Toby. I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck stand straight up as I laid there with my eyes wide open and my back facing the door. What the hell is that? I was literally petrified with fear. I couldn't open my mouth to say anything, and my breathing was becoming shallow. I laid there like that for what seemed 10 minutes, and then the footsteps slowly walked back down the hallway, and then I didn't hear them at all. With an unexpected surge of courage, I shot up and out of my bed, slammed my door open, and flipped the hallway light switch on. Nothing was there. I walked down to the living room and couldn't see anything in there except for Fat Toby asleep on the couch, as usual. Was I imagining that? I thought to myself. I swear there was something walking around outside of my room. There was no way my sleep-deprived mind made that up. It was too real. I could hear what sounded like nails on the hardwood floor. Toby doesn't seem fazed by whatever it was that I heard. Maybe it was just in my head. Fuck, I need to get more sleep. It didn't end there. After tossing and turning for another hour trying to get what just happened, or at least what I thought had just happened, out of my head, I was able to fall asleep. The dream I remember having that night was weird. Normally, my dreams are just a bunch of random shit that my subconscious puts together that doesn't make sense to me when I wake up, but this was the closest thing I'd say that I've had to a nightmare. I know that sounds weird to say, but I really don't have scary dreams at all. At least not since I was a kid anyways. It was just the usual monster under the bed scenario, never anything major that caused my parents any headache. This dream, though, God, it creeps me out just thinking about it, given what happened after. In this dream, I remember I was outside of my house in the front yard. I was watering the lawn or something when I heard that familiar bark echoing in the background. I remember putting down the hose and turning around to see a dog in the distance just sitting there, barking. Not aggressively, mind you, just sort of barking almost like it was trying to get my attention. For some reason, I I started to walk towards it. The dog continued to sit there barking at me, never once changing its pitch even as I got closer. It was a German Shepherd, and a big one at that. Its coat was black too. I remember because the red collar with cute little happy faces around its neck really popped out against its black fur coat. The dog just stared at me, almost right through me, as it continued to bark. Then I woke up, drenched in sweat. Even my pillow was saturated in sweat. Gross. It was about 7 a.m. or so when I woke up from that dream, and the sun was already out. I didn't think too much about what happened that night, or the weird dream, as I made some coffee to help me wake up a little bit more. When I finished my coffee, I got dressed and put my walking shoes on, as I felt I needed to get out of the house and get some fresh air. I decided to take a walk on the riverbed, since it's usually pretty dead this early in the morning. For some reason, I was a bit cranky, possibly from lack of sleep. I don't really know. All I know was that I wanted out. As I made my way out of my neighborhood, I passed by a young girl, 18 or so, taping some flyer to the brick wall just outside of the riverbed. Oh, maybe another lost dog, I thought to myself. We get coyotes in our neighborhood, and they used to live in the area before the city built more homes and lined the riverbed with concrete, so a missing dog here and there was pretty standard. I did my best not to make eye contact with her, as I didn't want to have to tell this weeping girl that I hadn't seen her dog, so I kept my gaze to the ground and walked right past her. The morning sky was beautiful that autumn day. There was a soft breeze going too, which was refreshing after just making it through another hot and humid California summer. As I got closer to the old train tracks, I could see something on the ground. I thought maybe one of the city workers left a bag of clippings from the plants they planted, with the intention of making the riverbed look natural again. But as I got closer, what I thought was a black trash bag wasn't that at all. It looked like an animal was laying there. Oh, what is that smell? The stench of rotting flesh got worse with every step. At first, all I could make out was the back of whatever it was, but when I was within a few feet, I could see that it was a dog. At least, it was what was left of a dog anyways. It looked like something had killed it and was starting to eat it before it got scared off, because the dog's entrails were still there, half torn to pieces and half still intact. The pink and red fleshy colors were no longer there, but instead, the flesh was gray and the blood was dried up. There were maggots all over everything, and most of the face had been eaten already. That would explain the smell. As I looked closer, I realized that this dog was a German Shepherd. That's kind of weird, I thought to myself. I remembered the black German Shepherd in my dream. I remembered how it was barking to get my attention. Then I remembered the red collar. Fuck. I was petrified as I was realizing how much this rotting corpse resembled the dog in my nightmare. I had to do it. I had to see if this dog had a collar. Something in the back of my mind told me it was, but there was just no fucking way. That doesn't make any sense. I heard it in my house for fuck's sake. As I leaned over to see the underside of its neck, the coldest chill ran through my spine, and I swear I stopped breathing. There it was. The same red collar, with the yellow and now blood-stained happy faces.